Hey guys, how y'all doing today? My name is Franchise Fanatic and welcome back to Star Wars Month. And today for you guys is another movie review in the Skywalker Saga. Today we're tackling Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones. Now, if you have not seen my Episode 1, The Phantom Menace review, I do have that on the channel very, very recently because Star Wars Month is only about 3 days old now. So please check that out if you haven't. It's a bit of a longer one. I'm going to make all of these a little longer than normal because I have a lot of things to talk about. I actually wrote a list. I have a list for every single movie so that I can cover it as brilliantly as I can and try to get through everything that I want to say and not rush it, because Star Wars Month is important to me. I want to make sure that I cover every base. So, with Episode 2, this is why I have my first note here, widely regarded as the worst movie. Is this really the worst Star Wars film ever? Well, it's not a bad Star Wars film. I'm going to say that. My second one here is looking at it through Star Wars and looking at it as a film. As a Star Wars fan, Attack of the Clones is amazing, right? It's got great action, it's got great lore, it's got great characters. But as a film, it doesn't hold up as well as Phantom Menace or Force Awakens or Rogue One or whatever. Now, again, is this the worst Star Wars movie? I am going to have to say, me personally, it is my least favorite Star Wars movie, but it is not a bad movie, and it's not necessarily the worst one for me, it's just the most disappointing one for me, and I'll get back to that in a minute. But, going on to the most important thing is, of course, Hayden Christensen. Jake Lloyd played Anakin Anakin Skywalker in The Phantom Menace, and he did an okay job, it was hit and miss. Again, go watch my review, I'll talk about it. But in this one, Hayden Christensen very much is another hit and miss. I do truly believe he is great in Episode 3, for the most part, which I'll get to when I review that. However, Hayden Christensen in this film, like I said, it is very hit and miss. I mean, there are some instances where I'm like, great, I feel for this character. When Shmi Skywalker, his mother, dies, I'm like, this is a sad scene. Anakin's completely screwed up. He's gonna, he gets pissed and he kills the Tusken Raiders. That is perfect, because it shows the acting in that is great, because you don't need to say dialogue for the audience or other characters to know that he's in great pain. It's just the expression on his face and the action that he does, which is bam, boom, boom, kills the Tusken Raider. That is exactly it. So again, he's good in most of the scenes. I do think that everyone giving Hayden shit, saying, oh, he's terrible, he's the worst actor ever. He's not a great actor by any means, but he is not terrible. He's just not great. And that is largely in part to the writing by George Lucas and I believe Jonathan Hale, but it's also more about the acting as well. So, Hayden Christensen, is he a bad actor? No. But is he a good actor? No. Again, it kind of falls in that in-between, and I'll get to some instances in a little bit here. CGI. CGI was roughly starting to get its boundaries in 2002. Of course, Episode 1 came out in 1999. So, that CGI is good. It actually does kind of hold up today, but it's not great. I think George Lucas really, because, when George did the original trilogy, 4, 5, 6, there wasn't much CGI at all. They had to use a lot of puppetry and, stop motion and getting ships to look, on wires and all that. So there was a lot of things like that where you couldn't just go, oh, screw it, we'll do that with CGI. We'll fix that with CGI. We'll do this. Everything was CGI back then, and it wasn't. Nowadays, during the prequels, CGI is starting to get, a lot newer to a lot of different filmmakers. So George Lucas saw it and said, let's just puke out and regurgitate every single CGI scene we can. And that helps the movie because it doesn't look extremely poorly done, but it also destroys the movie because it looks poorly done, And again, I'll get to that in a little bit, but you can a quick instance is that you can see, of course, the background and the planets. And, some of the things are, of course, CGI. They freaking have to be. You can't actually have Geonosis and Naboo and Camino, all those things. You can't actually have those there. So CGI has to be in place. Dexter Jester, who I think is still a good character, he is, completely CGI. And it doesn't work sometimes. Obi-Wan pats him on the back and he's like, hello, that meme. And, of course, it looks weird. But regarding, again, CGI, it can look good because the backgrounds look great. The planets look great. The blaster fire and the explosions, they look fairly fine. But when you look at Count Dooku's face when Christopher Lee was lightsaber fighting in the end, you can, and actually, this is the first time of me, watching it as a critic, so looking at it, his face is very much a dubbed-in CGI face during some scenes, and that's why you don't see Christopher Lee fighting Obi-Wan and Anakin in the end too much, because well, they just, Christopher Lee's like, what, freaking 70? He's not going to be able to do all these crazy moves and stuff, But again, that hurts the character because you look at his face and you're like, oh, that's really blurry. And normally when something's blurry or stretchy, that means it's CGI. In 2002, with a lot of experimentation going on, again, it can look great sometimes in this movie, but then other times it hits you like a smack to the face, and it's like, oh, damn, that don't look too good. That's all I have to say about that. It's not bad. Again, you kind of have to look at these movies with regards to how it looks and the CGI for what it is back then, of course, duh. But at the same time, it doesn't hold up too well, but it does in the same way. So again, a lot of the prequels you're going to be hearing from me are very hit and miss. It's not bad and it's not good. It's just okay, Going up to the acting. Again, acting is very much up and down. You get, like I said, you get scenes with Hayden Christensen that are really good. And then either the writing fucks up or something messes up. But something happens where you're like, okay, you didn't do it, And there's a lot of things like that. Of course, Natalie Portman is in this, returning from The Phantom Menace, a little older. Still, they try to make her attractive, which she is. Duh, she's hot. But at the same time, a lot of critics were like, oh, she has a midriff because she's supposed to be sexy. And I'm like, well, she is sexy. I don't need midriff. Anyway, with that, I do think that maybe when she gets scratched by the Acklay or whatever in the Geonosian arena, maybe that's that. I don't know. It was a cool scene. Big deal. But again, Natalie Portman's performance in this movie can be fine, but then you have things where the dialogue mucks up and you're like, I truly, deeply love you. I'm like, George, John, dude, I'm not a professional screenwriter, but saying I truly, deeply love you to someone is kind of weird, And for everyone who was like, oh, that scene in Last Jedi when Rose said to that line on Finn about saving people that they love, that was a great line. Now, mind you, that might be my least favorite line in the film, but I'll talk about that when I review the movie. But I also love that line, so it's another up and down thing too. Again, when I review the future movies, I'll talk about it. But having to say I truly deeply love you and then her kiss Anakin doesn't work. It works for a Star Wars movie, but it doesn't work as a film, a non-film. I have to look at this as a Star Wars film and then a normal film. And because of that, I don't buy... Her acting's fine sometimes, and the writing's fine sometimes, but it just mucks up, you know what I mean? And then you also, you're supposed to really feel that Natalie Portman's Padme is really in love with Hayden Christensen's Anakin. And you don't feel that in this movie at all. Maybe one or two scenes where they're on a date, or Hayden, when he was on the field, and he's done that weird thing, and he falls off, and he starts laughing in the field. That was fine. I enjoyed that. I bought into that relationship. But when George Lucas makes these characters say things that they should just be feeling, that's a sign of bad acting and a sign of bad writing. And of course, that plagues this movie. A lot of times it's good, but a lot of times it's bad. And of course, there are a few... This movie kind of is dripping with cheese. Like, if you had, the Attack of the Clones was, cheese mixed in, and it really is that case. Like, the very beginning of the movie, you get Captain Typho, who's like, there was no danger at all, which is another YouTube poop thing. And then the ship blows up, and another Padme decoy... the terrible acting kicks in. She's like, my lady, I'm sorry, I tried. And it's like, whoa, calm down. You know what I mean? No, you're dying, calm down. So she says, my lady, I'm sorry, I'm trying. And then she dies. And in The Dark Knight Rises, when, whatever the hell her name was, Talia, she goes like that, and everyone's like, what? You know what I mean? You're Oscar winning? What? Academy Award, my butt. Same thing in this movie. The decoy's like, and it's like, no one dies like that, man. Nobody just goes, It's like, I haven't died yet. I hope I, do when I'm really, really old. But still, at the same time, it's like, no one does that, you know what I mean? So again, there are some cheesy moments, there are some cheesy acting, and there is a lot of cheesy writing. But, with regard to that, it is nowhere near the high caliber of the newer Star Wars films under Disney. And to be honest, the original trilogy, 4, 5, 6, had better acting and writing than 1, 2, 3. And I'm not sure why that is. Maybe George Lucas just didn't care about Star Wars. Probably why he's not in charge anymore, because he sucked at his job. But, like I said in my Phantom Menace, George Lucas started with Star Wars, and he also kind of killed Star Wars at the same time. Now, I'm not saying that Attack of the Clones is a bad movie. In fact, like I said, as a Star Wars film, it's just as good as all the other ones. It's got great action, great moments, great everything. But, again, looking at it as a film, even Ewan McGregor, who played Obi-Wan Kenobi, he's great in the prequels. And there are some moments in this movie where, in the very beginning, when you see Obi-Wan and Anakin going to meet Padme, Obi-Wan's like, Anakin, you're nervous. try to relax. And Anakin's like, you know, going crazy. And then you see Obi-Wan, who's like, Anakin's like, oh yeah, Obi-Wan, not from when I saved you from the, you know, the gun dogs or whatever. And Obi-Wan's like, oh. And there's like some awkward look for like a minute. I'm like, George, edit this crap out. You know, there's another scene where Anakin's bitching to Padme, and he throws something, and he's getting all whiny like an angsty teen, and he kind of looks at Padme, right? But it's like he's like, for like 2 minutes, and I'm like, dude, George, cut this out, man. I know you didn't probably edit it, but whoever edited this movie sucked in a lot of regards. Again, there were some really creeper moments where Anakin's just looking at Padme like he wants to bone her, and it's like, Jesus Christ, man. Calm down. I know he's like 16, 17 supposed to be in this movie, and but Padme didn't grow at all, but that's not a negative. But with regards to, again, the acting, it can be weird, you know? It borderlines on bad half the time. And that sadly, that is a negative. Same with the writing. The writing is very up and down, saying, I truly, deeply love you. That's not good. Anakin, the whole... Now, okay, there's 2 lines in this movie that stand out that everyone hates, that I don't hate, and I also hate. Now, the whole movie is a little littered with really weird lines, excuse me. However, the 2 lines I want to talk about are the first one, you know what it is, the sand line, and then the second one is when Anakin kills the Tusken Raiders and he's kind of telling Padme what he did, and how acting and writing can ruin a scene. Now, if I was directing this movie, or writing it, whatever, now let me just say something really fast before I get into that, of the sand line. So Anakin and Padme are on Naboo, and a lot of people take this line, I don't like sand. It's rough and coarse and irritating, and gets everywhere. And he has like this really weird British thing going on, where Anakin's not British, especially if you're watching the Clone Wars and have a brain. But anyway, with regard to that line, when you see the context, Padme is telling Anakin, look, when I was a kid, I loved the water. It was, you know, soothing and cool and, you know, calming and everything like that. And then, of course, Anakin butts in and says, oh, I don't like sand. It's rough and coarse and irritating. It's everywhere. Now, people automatically go, oh, that's a shit line. He's flirting and it doesn't work. And while that is partially true, if you actually watch the scene without the context of just the sand line, if you take into account what Padme just said about having that she loved her homeland, she loved the water, she loved swimming in it, she loved Naboo, it was peaceful and amazing. And then you get that stark contrast of Anakin Skywalker saying, I don't like sand, it's rough, coarse, irritating, and it's everywhere. He meant Tatooine, his home. Padme loved her home, and it's getting ripped away from her. Anakin hated his home. So there's a very different contrast right there. And that line makes a lot of sense when you really think about it. But I would have worded it differently, because automatically it is a strange sounding line, and really it's not necessarily the line, it's the delivery of the line. Hayden Christensen, like I said, he can be a great actor in this, and then he can be kind of weird. And of course, like I mentioned that with the whole, you know, the killing of Tusken Raiders thing. But all in all, like I said, the writing is really weird, and then of course the scene where he goes, I killed them. Not just the men, but the women and the children. I hate them! And he goes crazy. Again, that is a great line. And his performance is okay. He's crying, you know he's pissed off, and he's conflicted within himself. But then the camera goes and he chucks a can, and the can makes a really soft noise, and it doesn't work. If I was going to have Anakin throw a can, it would have been right below his feet, where it's louder and more compact. Not throwing it and then, bing, not, boom! That's what I want to hear. You know, I want to hear a big clunk because he's pissed, not a, you know, in the background. So that's just projectile aiming at its worst. But you know what I mean. That scene, again, it's a great line. And I don't know why people don't like the sand line. It works. It's just the delivery of the line that doesn't work. Really and truly. And of course, like I said, Hayden is okay, but then he's also bad. And those are the 2 examples where writing and acting can either destroy a movie or elevate the film. And the writing in those 2 instances, Sand and Tusken Raiders, I hate them, was fine. Really, I enjoyed the lines. It's just the acting of Hayden that ruined it. And of course, Padme, truly deeply love you, that is actually horse crap. But, you know, there are a few lines in here that are weird, then of course there are some that are good, but the acting ruins it. Of course, the plot, of course, we all know the plot by now, Attack of the Clones. The plot is fine. As far as a Star Wars film, it has a lot of great notes. There's a lot of cool action scenes in there. There's a lot of great moments, for sure. And as a Star Wars film, again, it is great, for sure. Lots of cool things. The Geonosians working on the Death Star. I didn't even remember that, and I watched it last night, and I'm like, oh my god, it's the fudging Death Star! I didn't even realize. So there's a lot of cool, moments in there. Count Dooku's in there for the first time. This is the first time we see the clones and the Kaminoans and Kamino itself. A little bit more on Geonosis, which is really cool. Of course, we get, like I said, the Geonosians as a race. Jar Jar Binks is everyone who hated Jar Jar Binks in the first one. Is he even on here? He is on there. I'm gonna save that actually. So plot, again, it's fine. It's actually really great, to tell you the truth, for a Star Wars movie. I love it. Of course, like I said, down here is the sand line, and I have Anakin bitching, which is essentially him, just like I said, the sand line. You just heard what I said. I kind of mentioned that already. The truly, deeply love you thing is complete garbage. Next one, Jar Jar Binks messes up. Now, if you actually look at this movie, Senator Binks gives authority to Chancellor Palpatine to essentially create the clones, or have the clones be used for the Republic. And when you really think about it, Jar Jar Binks single-handedly effed the entire galaxy by letting him do that. Now, let's be honest, Jar Jar Binks is a complete moron. However, in Episode 1 he's a moron, but that's fine. He's supposed to be silly, and he works. Episode 2, a little bit more serious, right? He's a little bit of a more, important figure. And then, of course, he messes up. And the greatest thing about the prequels is the Clone Wars movie and the Clone Wars animated show. Because now that I've seen every episode of the Clone Wars until Season 7 comes out next year, it gives me a grander scale of the prequels. And I love Episode 2 a lot more for watching the Clone Wars. Because I look at Jar Jar Binks and I'm like, alright, he's a moron. And then I go, okay, he screwed up. But then again, Jar Jar Binks, no one knew that the clones were engineered to go crazy. Not even the clones. So a lot of people get confused and go, oh, the clones were always evil. No, the clones were always good. They were just tampered with from birth to turn evil at a certain time. And of course, the Clone Wars do not become stormtroopers. Stormtroopers are real people. They're not clones, like Finn, for instance. So, regarding to Jar Jar, I do think that he's a good character in this. Again, he really screws up. But at the same time, it's not his fault because no one knew. Plus, if you watch the Clone Wars animated show, there's a lot of things in that show with Jar Jar teaming up with Bail Organa and Mace Windu, and it really does make the character better. So Jar Jar Binks, you're a good character, and I don't understand the hate at all. Now I'm going to go into the sound. There are a lot of great sounds in this movie. Of course, the music by John Williams is freaking fantastic. There's a really cool scene with Boba and Jango Fett shooting rockets at Obi-Wan Kenobi in his starfighter, and it's like a blue thing. It goes boom, like that. It's really cool with the soundbar. But it's a great sound, for sure. I mean, it sounds weird. Oh, it's a great sound. But it is. And, of course, the lightsaber sound effects are great. Everything in this movie sounds fine. Although there is one negative where right after the sand line, where Anakin and Padme kiss, they have this really romantic music, right? And it's like, okay, sounds great. The music's great. And then all of a sudden, Padme pulls away and says, no, I should have done that. And the music goes, boom. And it was funny. And it wasn't supposed to be funny, because I actually laughed. I'm like, the music literally goes, and then it goes, and then it just cuts out to another track. And it sounded so effing weird, man. And I don't know if you guys know what I'm talking about, but again, it's where they're kissing in Naboo after the sound line, and romantic music plays, and then she gets away from Anakin, and it just abruptly cuts out, and then another track starts playing. Now, that's not John Williams' fault. I do believe that is the editor's fault. Again, the editing of this movie is very up and down as well. But that on that later. So, the love and romance element, like I said, Padme and Anakin, I buy in a few scenes, but overall, in this film, how they go from her seeing him like, oh, yeah, you're Anakin, cool, to being, I love you, you know what I mean, and them getting married. It does not work. And as a film, it really doesn't work. As a Star Wars film, it could work. Because, again, you get the Clone Wars movie and show that really elevate the entire lore and canon of that relationship, so that by the time Episode 3 rolls around and that she has a kid and they're married and all that with Luke and Leia, it makes a lot more sense. But for them to go from literally the beginning of the movie, and it's a pretty long movie, but going from, oh, hey, Anakin, to, like I said, oh, I truly, deeply love you, and then they're getting married, it doesn't work. It feels very rushed. And, maybe, I don't think when they made Episode 2, they knew they were going to do the Clone Wars show, but if I knew, I would have had them get married in the show, or at least in the movie, so they have more time to kind of see them flourish. Because, not an expert on romance here, but I can say that, meeting someone and then, after seeing them for 10 years, and then marrying in, like, the next 2 weeks, that's probably not the most vital thing. But anyway, that's just me. But again, in this movie, I do not buy their romance, but the Clone Wars really did help me, and I buy it now. But if you just go from 1, 2, 3, it doesn't work. If you go 1, 2, Clone Wars 3, it works, and that's the way it really should be viewed. we have the action scenes now. Now, of course, the best action scenes in Star Wars are, of course, the newer films under Disney, with being the Last Jedi Throne Room scene being my favorite yet. But, however, Episode 1 had great action scene with a great climactic duel between Obi-Wan, Darth Maul, and Qui-Gon Jinn. This movie ups it up a lot. There is a lot of cool action. And a lot of people were making fun of the scene when Obi-Wan Kenobi and Jango Fett have a little fist fight in Kamino, and Obi-Wan kind of does like a Karate Kid kick, you know? And I will admit, it looked kind of weird, and of course it was CGI, so it did look weird. But, a lot of people understand that in Star Wars, like, saying, oh, may the Force be with you. May the Force be with you is not just a universal thing. That's stupid. Same with fighting style. Every Jedi has a different fighting style. When Obi-Wan Kenobi in Episode 3 does this, it looks retarded, but then you look at it and you go, oh, that's Form 3 or whatever. And then you go, okay, there's a lot of kicking in this movie. In the Battle of Geonosis, in the arena, there's, like, you know, all the Jedi fighting the Clankus. There's a crap ton of them, people just kicking or punching or kicking, you know. Obi-Wan Kenobi does a lot of drop kicks, you know. He kicks Jango Fett like 5 times in that scene. And it looks kind of weird, but at the same time, that is just another fighting style. So again, for people to think, oh, the Jedi only have to use their lightsaber, or only have one form of combat, that's just being closed-minded. Maybe George just wanted to have some kicks in there, but if you actually know the lore of Star Wars, there are a lot of different fighting techniques in that, and one of them does involve more hand-to-hand combat, and of course, kicking as well. So it looks kind of weird, but it does serve the grand scheme of things, and the action scenes are great. However, in this movie, it has the worst action scene of all time in Star Wars, which is Count Dooku versus Anakin Skywalker. Now, there are some good moments. I really, really, really love the scene where Obi-Wan throws his lightsaber and Anakin does that cool, like, double thing, and then it really quickly pans over to Obi-Wan going like this with his leg, and then it goes back to them. It's really hard to explain, but it's in there, and it looks freaking great, and I love that. That was good editing and good directing. However, then it goes to Anakin cutting the cord, you know, to the lights or whatever, and you then get a little fight scene in the dark, and you see the blue and the red lightsabers going crazy, but it looks so goddamn weird, because and I swear to God, if you watch this movie and you argue with me, you're crazy, because it's just Anakin and Count Dooku doing this. It's like Sandy Cheeks got a lasso and she's roping some cattle. That's what it is. And it looks completely and utterly stupid with 2 O's. It does not work. The fight scene works, but then you get to that moment, and literally George was probably like, okay guys, you're going to be, you know, swinging your lightsabers, and you're going to be, you know, swinging it in dark. It looks great. CGI later. And that's what it is. It's just them doing this for like 3 minutes. And again, I might be overreacting, but still, it does look really, really weird and bad, to say the least. If they wanted to do something in the dark, they should have done it differently. Again, lightsaber fight in this movie, great. I love the action in this movie 100%, especially the clone troopers in the end in the Battle of Geonosis. Freaking great. However, there is another instance of the lassoing in the attack on Jango Fett with Mace Windu. There is a few scenes where Mace Windu is just kind of doing this. And it really doesn't feel choreographed. It feels like George Lucas just said, okay guys, you know, just go in there and swing your lightsabers and it'll look cool. And that's what he's doing. He's just, you know, swinging his lightsaber. And it looks fine in a lot of scenes. And then you get that one with Mace Windu doing this, and then you get them in the dark lassoing. It doesn't look good, and it really shows. And it hands down to me is the worst lightsaber fight of all time. For people to say The Last Jedi Throne Room didn't have good choreography, which it does, this film does not in a 1 or 2 scenes. But overall, the action is great. Clones are CGI. Here's something. To my knowledge, every single clone trooper that is either in the Kamino scene when Obi-Wan's looking over and they're all having dinner, to the climactic battle at the end where they're all shooting, it's 100% CGI. Every clone is. Now, that could be laziness. That could be, hey, we have CGI. Let's just CGI the whole damn thing. No one will notice. And I didn't really notice. The clone troopers do look good CGI, but they're all CGI. And that's a good and a negative. That's all I'm going to say on that. Boba Fett. Young baby Boba Fett. Now, this, of course, does pan into, there's an episode in the Clone Wars where Boba Fett tries to get revenge on Mace Windu. Great episode. Great, link there. But the kid actor, George Lucas just is not good at finding child actors. First it was Anakin Obi-Wan, and now it's this kid Boba Fett. His accent is trash. It's okay, he's trying to sound like, Boba, over there, make sure we do this, whatever. It sounds fine, but when they're shooting at Obi-Wan, he's like, get him, Dad, yeah, get him, yeah! He sounds very raspy, and it's really weird. And when he's like, get him, yeah! It's like, whoa, what the heck? It's a very bad actor for sure. When he says, sure, like that. It's great. But then again, when he's in the ship and Jango's shooting it, Boba Fett, oh my god, it's cringy. To be completely honest. Locations, we get a bunch of locations. Kamino, Geonosis. Again, the lore of Star Wars is really, really effective and it's really great. And of course, it does lend itself to the Clone Wars movie and TV show. And of course, the games and Lego Star Wars 3, the Clone Wars, everything. It's all so amazing. And of course, as a Star Wars film, 10 out of 10. But as a normal film, the locations are still good. But the direction and editing, like I said, the direction can be good. There are a few shots that are a little misaligned or kind of weird. The editing, like I said, the music can be kind of weird. Something just abruptly cut out. A lot of the CGI falls into the editing category, and it can look great and terrible. And of course, the way they shoot some things can be kind of cheesy as well. I do really like the end, how Anakin and Padme kiss. Kind of a weird kiss, but the kiss, and then they kind of turn around and they walk over to the balcony and they look over at the sunset. That is good. Great ending. But there's a few other shots in here that are just kind of weird, you know. The fight in Geonosis, the arena, is of course the highlight of this film. I think everyone can agree that was a great scene, and it looks great and it's edited very well. But there are some moments where you could argue and go, okay, that scene wasn't as good because they wanted to make that one better. I don't know. That's just me. But you know, anyway. So again, like I said, if you're a great Star Wars film, it's just an okay real film. Here's my big thing. There are no real negatives here. They're just disappointments. And there's not one, trust me, there is not one bad scene in this movie. I have never seen a shot or a scene in this film where I went, oh, that's horrible. That's terrible. Now you're probably like, Franchise Fanatic, you just said a bunch of shit on it. Well, tell you the truth, like I said, this movie is not negative or bad, it's disappointing. There are things like, okay, George, you did it better in that scene. You couldn't have done it better there. You know, the writing, the sand line is a great line. We just take it out of context and make it dumb. The acting was bad. Anakin again, when he talks about killing the Tusken Raiders, great line, terrible acting. Padme, good acting, terrible line. It really is a balance of different acts here, and you can't really get that perfect. So again, no real negatives. It really is just disappointments regarding that. It is not as bad as people say. However, to me, in my opinion, with all of these things that I listed, with the acting, the writing, the CGI, the editing, directing, all that stuff, the action scenes, most of it is good, just like The Phantom Menace. But when it gets bad, it's worse here than it is in Phantom Menace. And I'm going to have to give Star Wars Attack of the Clones a C+. That is not to be taken lightly. It's not like I hate this film. In fact, I love this movie a lot. But when you have to look at it through a critical eye for YouTube, you do notice some negatives. And again, I will gladly rewatch Attack of the Clones any day of the week. I love all the Star Wars movies the same. But when you look at them as films, things can get a little roughy. So, please tell me what you thought about Attack of the Clones in the comments from my scale, F to A+. Again, I'm going to give it a C+. Really, like I said, though, the big thing is that there are no bad scenes or bad anything in this movie. It's more disappointing for me. Wouldn't you know, the battery died. So anyway, this always happens whenever for some reason my camera just decides to F off and turn off when there's inactivity on it because I'm not touching it. But anyway, to wrap everything up, again, Star Wars Attack of the Clones is going to get a C+. Star Wars film, great. Normal film, it's okay. Please tell me what you think about it in the comments. May the Force be with you. Thank you guys, and we'll see you in the next video.